So I am really excited to be here. Today, we're going to be talking about crowdfunding and specifically the step-by-step process that me and my business partner went through to raise over $100,000. It is possible. It's not magic. It's not build it and they will come. So I guess I'll take you back to the beginning. So in the beginning, me and my buddy were making cookies out of his mom's kitchen. We had an idea for a low carb cookie because we were both on this thing called the keto diet, which was very new at the time. I'd lost about 40 pounds, it melted off, but there were no sweets, there was no candy, there were no desserts in the space that were good and good for you. So through experimentation, I'm talking 20, 30, 40 different recipes, we finally came up with the idea for a keto cookie. His mom liked it, I liked it, he liked it. We wondered, will anybody from the real world actually like this and want to buy this? So what we ended up doing is we ended up testing the idea. I had about 20 bucks and I spent those on ads on this platform called Reddit. We looked at each other, we said, okay, if we sell 15, we got a business. In a couple of days, we sold over 30. We're like, okay, we've got something, but now what do you do? How do you grow it? Neither of us had any personal assets. Banks wouldn't loan us money. Interest on credit cards was way too high. And at the time, I didn't feel comfortable asking friends or family. So we said, why don't we try this whole crowdfunding thing? And what we did is we started thinking about it very analytically. We said, okay, how can we be strategic to leverage what we have, the community that we've built? And the concept of pre-selling came to play, which I'll explain a little bit. So we raised how much? So we actually ended up doing 2 crowdfunding campaigns. The first one, we raised $21,495. We were trying to raise $5,000. I'm like, okay. Like, I wonder if we do it again, what happens? We raised $79,187 the second time. In addition to money, what this allowed us to do is it allowed us to build momentum and traction. As you can see at the bottom of this picture, 1,334 backers, which means that's 1,334 customers that we got. So in addition to the capital, we had a foundation for a customer base that would keep coming back over and over and over. So it indeed was a kickstart, right? We got kickstarted. So I'm going to walk you through the process and how to think strategically about how you can do it in your own business. So who the heck am I? Philip mentioned me a little bit. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years, founded a couple of businesses, raised over 100 grand in Kickstarter, landed a deal on Shark Tank. I'm also a mentor at the startup Incubator. I'm a business coach and a consultant. So like helping people go from idea to launch to scale. That's what excites me. Since I was a little kid selling candy door to door. So what is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is a method of raising funds for a project that you may have. There's a lot of different, sorry, I'm moving the pictures around. So typically it's online and there's different platforms now for crowdfunding. We have, excuse me, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe. Now there's also platforms for equity crowdfunding. So you have Start Engine, we have WeFunder. Whatever platform you're on, I believe that the principles of launching successfully will apply. So is crowdfunding right for you? Here's the thing is, to be successful, it's not easy money. It's not build it and they will come. I have a friend who launched the Kickstarter, spent a lot of time, launched it, and didn't meet his funding goal. So all of that time was wasted. It requires a lot of upfront work without a guaranteed outcome, which means, again, we need to be very strategic about how we go about it. The first thing to think about is, what's your funding goal? Crowdfunding is usually best for companies needing about 100K or less. So think about it as like seed capital or startup capital. One thing that I like to do is I like to find similar companies in a similar niche that have been successful and see how much they've raised. Okay, so if other companies were raising 10 grand, then, and I'm trying to raise 1 million, I'm trying to raise 100 grand, you kind of have to see what the industry is driving. And something to consider with your funding goals, what is the minimum amount of capital you need? The great thing about crowdfunding is you can always go over, but if you don't hit your target, you don't get to keep the money. So what is the minimum amount that you're going to need to be able to hit your milestones? Because what's going to be important, and we'll talk about it, is your story and your reason why you're raising funds. So who's your customer? The most successful campaigns that I've seen, and through my research and working with other people raising their campaigns, is you want to have a pre-existing community. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a big following on social media, a big following on TikTok, anything like that. Your pre-existing community can be your existing friends and family, your network. Does your target market align with the platform? So when choosing whether you want to go to Kickstarter, whether you want to go to Indiegogo or the other platforms, think about who your customer is and if they align with that. So for example, when we were doing the cookies, Indiegogo was more tech products and was more male focused. Our customer was women, and it was a food product. And we saw that that was more successful on Kickstarter. Crowdfunding tends to work best for innovative tech projects, creative products, social impact. This is huge. Niche and consumer products. The pros are obviously access to funding. I think concept validation is something people don't talk about enough. If it works well on Kickstarter, chances are that there's a product market fit. You get to build that community like I shared with the initial backers, right? That's going to be your initial customer base. But again, no guarantee of success, time consuming, and there's fees involved. So make sure you calculate those. Just a further breakdown of the crowdfunding platforms that, the products that perform best. So tech products, creative, niche products, unique customers. So what's the blueprint? How do we win? 80% of your success with crowdfunding is going to come from your pre-launch. Okay, if you guys are familiar with the concept of the 80-20 principle, it says that 20% of what you do yields 80% of your results. The reason why most crowdfunding campaigns aren't successful is because a lot of people skip this part. Okay, so I'm going to show you what you need to do and how you need to prepare to be successful. And the great thing about this as well is this works even if it's not crowdfunding, even if it's just a product launch. So here are the 7 steps. We need to define our outcome. We need to tell the right story, build a community, study the winners. We're going to find some really cool stuff here at step 4. Leverage your network, tap into media, and then we launch. So step 1, define the outcome. Why are you crowdfunding? Obviously, the initial answer is, well, I need money, right? Why are you crowdfunding? Think about it. Your story is going to be the biggest thing that you tell with crowdfunding. So if you just say, I want to raise $20,000 because that's going to get my business started. People want to know the why behind the money. So for us, we were on a mission to end diabetes one cookie at a time. That's why people funded us. So why are you crowdfunding? What will the funds allow you to do? Can you be specific? Is it going to help you launch a new product? Is it going to help you move out of your mom's kitchen into a bigger facility? Can you launch a new flavor? Can you bring down the cost because of economies of scale? What will the funds allow you to do? And again, what is your minimum funding goal? Now, something that a lot of people don't think of is, what are your numbers? The last thing you want to do is launch a crowdfunding campaign only to find out that you're not profitable or as profitable or you're potentially losing money. So make sure that you understand your costs. Make sure that you understand like shipping. Make sure that you also understand the fees. A lot of these platforms can charge around 10 to 12% of whatever you raise. So know your numbers. And there's a couple things we can do to actually increase your profitability that isn't directly tied with your product, which I'll talk about in a future slide. Again, what will the funds allow you to do? The goal here is to tell your story and to go deeper than the actual funding amount. What does a 20K, what does a 50K allow you to do? What is your minimum funding goal? Remember, if you miss your target, you don't keep the cash. You can always raise more, but you also want to make it a stretch. You don't want to say my goal is 500 bucks or my goal is 1,000, my goal is 2,000. Make it a stretch. And when you make it a stretch, you can tie your community along with you. An example, initially, we were raising for our first one, we were trying to raise $5,000 and people helped us raise $5,000. It was incredible. Now we had an incentive. We said, if you help us get to $7,500, we are going to unlock peanut butter. We're going to unlock this other flavor. So people were incentivized to keep funding and keep supporting to reach that next, it's called a stretch goal. We talked about knowing your numbers. Something to look at is what are your profit multipliers? Let's say you sell cookies, right? I'll use that example. And maybe your profit margin isn't huge. Something that you can do to increase the amount of profit you make is you can bundle in things that are more profitable. For example, in addition to our product, we had clothing, we had t-shirts, we had stickers, we had water bottles. We had other things where the profit margins were much higher and they were a part of the bundle in general. So think, what can you do with this campaign to increase your profit? Once you know your outcome, let's talk about your story. Your story, in my opinion, is the lead driver. It is why people are going to support you once they come to your campaign. People buy with emotion and they justify with logic. Your story will be the foundation of your campaign. When you're reaching out to media, to influencers, to friends and family, it's when you're creating your video, your copy, it's all going to stem from your story. And it's your opportunity to connect with your audience. So again, when we were creating our video, we were tying into this low carb movement and how low sugar could positively affect people's lives. And in addition to that, we were being very transparent and we were sharing behind the scenes. So as that picture I showed you of us with the cookies, we actually started sending samples to influencers. We would go on Instagram and search for like, hey, keto mama or hey, keto girl. And we'd send them a message, say, hey, look, we're on this really big mission. We're just two guys. Can I send you some cookies and you tell me what you think? The majority of people said yes. We sent them cookies for free. They started posting about it, even though they weren't yet available for sale. But what it did was it connected them with us because we were two guys in aprons with no baking experience, and we were tying them in. We were sharing pictures of product development. We were showing pictures. We were being vulnerable. We were building trust, which in the end helped when we actually launched. When you're telling a story, you need to craft a hook. You need to get people to stop in their tracks, whether they're on social media. What's going to stop them? It sets the tone and it encourages the audience to invest in your story. There's a couple of different types of hooks. Your hook can be action-based. It can be something exciting. It can be a question. It can be dialogue. It can be a description. It can be a shocking statement. For us, one of ours was, we are the world's best tasting low carb cookie. Right? At the time, most people associate low carb and healthy with not good, right? With something that doesn't taste good. So we were tying them into, these taste like grandma's cookies. These are soft, these are chewy. So how do we get it to stop? That's one way that you get them to stop. Crafting your hook. Again, you got to be clear, you got to be brief, original, and have relevance. Now, if any of you guys are familiar with ChatGPT, it's an awesome shortcut to help you come up with some good hook ideas. So something that you can do is go on to Kickstarter or whatever platform you're looking at and look again at the common successful campaigns in your industry. What are the common hooks that they use? Is it a question? Is it a statement? Is it a shocking fact? And then model that. So that you don't want to copy, but the key here is you want to model the winners. When structuring your story, I suggest you can find, I believe there's examples online for free, but it's called the hero's journey. When you look at movies like Star Wars or a lot of these classic movies, you're going to realize that the majority of them all follow the same overarching theme, right? It's like if we're talking about Rocky, for example, Rocky 1, he's just a regular guy, and he gets this calling to fight Apollo Creed, right? And on this journey, he's growing and he gets knocked down. He's up and he knocks down. That format has been used across so many different movies and stories. It's called the hero's journey. So when crafting your story, think about how it aligns with this layout. So that's some homework. Look into the hero's journey. The hero's journey breaks into 3 different acts. Again, if we were to spend time on this, we wouldn't have enough time to finish this presentation. So let's focus on the reason why we're using the hero's journey. It's time tested. It encourages character growth and transformation, and it provides a roadmap for crafting memorable narratives. If you look again at the top performing, whether they be Shark Tank pitches or Kickstarter videos, a lot of them have a similar format. There's a hook and they take you through a version of the hero's journey. Homework assignment, craft your hero's journey. Then you want to build your community. One of the reasons why our campaigns did so well is that we had built a community ahead of time. So remember when I was talking to you about the influencers and the free cookies that they were getting, and they were creating buzz and they were taking pictures, and people were asking like, oh my God, where do I get these? And I'll show you what we did with that traffic, right? But what we started doing is we started creating value, we started creating community so that when we launched, they were all ready to act at the same time, which helped trigger the algorithm, which again, I'm going to get to in a little bit. But focus on building your community up front. Who are the friends? Who are the people that are going to talk about you and share? Start early, way before you want to launch your campaign. Okay, offer a ton of value up front, and then drive them to a pre-launch page. One piece of software that I use is called Kickoff Labs. And what's great about this is if you know that you're going to launch a crowdfunding campaign. So for us, we knew we were going to launch it. Anytime somebody asked us about our campaign, we said, be the first to find out, or even get a free cookie, sign up here. And what would happen is they would sign up, and in that page, there was some virality built into it. They were encouraged to share with their friends, and that became the base of what helped us actually succeed with our crowdfunding campaign. Find your dream 100. One of my favorite books on marketing is from the author Russell Brunson, and he talks about finding your dream 100. So basically, who are the top influencers in your space? I use the word, hey, keto mama. If you're on YouTube, who already has your existing customer? Where are they already hanging out? And build a list of the people that already have access, right? It's not about creating new people. It's about finding where they already are and siphoning them off towards you. Build a list of outreach and then break them down by channel. Contact and engage. Send authentic messages, comment on their posts, share their stuff, become friends. Again, the reason why you want to start early is you don't want to randomly message somebody, start building a relationship, and a couple of days later say, hey, oh, by the way, I have this thing that I want you to help me promote. Connect, show value, and be authentically interested. Try to become an actual friend of theirs. The types of messages that we would send, again, would be like, hey, I love your story. It's a lot of times it would be women that had lost a lot of weight, and we'd be like, wow, you're inspiring a lot of people, and we want to help you in your journey. And it was just a dialogue. We'd just connect and become friends. Make them a part of the story. So as we started building this list, remember I told you about this pre-launch page. We started sending samples to people, like cookie samples. We were showing pictures of us again at mom's kitchen and testing different ingredients. We showed pictures and videos behind the scenes. We shared our progress. Why? Because we wanted to connect, but we also wanted them to feel like they were a part of the story. So that they had more connection and more reason to promote, because it wasn't just our story. It was their story as well. We were part of a movement. So how does your product, your service connect to a bigger purpose, right? For us, we're fighting the enemy that is sugar. What is your enemy? What is the purpose that you're trying to, the movement that you're trying to create? Drive them to a landing page. These will be the people that give you your early momentum. And if you're not very tech savvy and the word landing page kind of scares you, there is software, and it's not expensive at all. And a lot of the stuff is just pre-built. You sign up, there's a template, you customize some of the copy, and now it's built. But it's very important to have, because what you want is you want to create your list of VIPs. You want to create the people that will run across the street to buy your product. Those are the ones that are going to spread the word. Those are the ones that are going to help with virality. This is an example of the landing page, kickofflabs.com. Step number 4, let's study the winners. The beautiful thing about the internet is there is so much existing data and so many ways to find it that can help you narrow your focus and know what to prioritize. I'm going to give you an example. The playbook has already been written. Find what's already worked and model it. Okay, modeling is the key here. Who has already won and how do we model that? Step number 1 is find the top funded campaigns in your niche. Okay, this stuff is public online. If this link here, kickstarter.com/discover/most funded, find the campaigns and study them. What do they have in common? The outliers, what did they do differently? You need to look at the common principles to see how you can apply that, because it's already been proven to work. You know the old saying, don't reinvent the wheel? Don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of it's already built in. Like I mentioned, analyze their campaign, study their hooks, study the rewards that they chose. What kind of headline, what kind of story did they tell? How does it align with what you have? Did they use a lot of graphics? Did they not? Now here is a cool little hack, is we can actually discover who already promoted them. So when you're creating a campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, a lot of times bloggers or different periodicals will cover a campaign, which gives it a lot of traffic. One way you can do it is by doing what's called a reverse image lookup. And if it gets too technical, you can ask me during the question part, and I can actually, I can break it down in more detail. But basically, convincing people to write again about something they've already written about is much easier than finding somebody to write about something a first time. So with this, you want a very focused target list. And here's what happens with a reverse image lookup. Basically, you go to their crowdfunding campaign and you download the main image that you see. You download it onto your computer. Then you go into Google image search and you upload that picture. Now, what it does is anybody who's written an article that has that same picture will show up here where it says visual matches. So that's one way to see what bloggers, what people, who has already talked about a campaign similar. So you can reach out to them and it will greatly increase your chances of getting covered. Then we start building a media list. Again, who's already promoted, your Dream 100, your influencers, the bloggers. You have data of what they've covered. You have data of that they're in your niche. So you are much more likely to increase your chances of success. Then we do outreach. Focus on 10 at a time. This is not a shotgun approach. This is a rifle approach. You want to, be like a detective, create a dossier, learn everything you can about them. What's their writing style? What outlets do they write for? The key here is you want to make it as easy as possible as you can for them to say yes and for them to share your story. One cool way to do it is find shared connections. So let's say you have your list, right? You found 20 bloggers that have written about cookies in different blogs. Okay, great. What you want to do, instead of a cold outreach, a cold email, and say, hey, you don't know me, but I've got this product. You're much more likely to get a yes if it's somebody that you both know. So if you have a LinkedIn, search for their name on LinkedIn and see if there are any shared connections with both of you. So maybe it's a friend or a friend of a friend that already knows them. A warm introduction will highly increase your chances of getting covered. Make it easy for them to say yes. Make sure to follow up. It's usually the second or the third follow-up where people actually say yes, and most people quit after the first message. You can actually write a sample post for them. So something I'm planning on doing after here, if you guys are interested, is in a day or two, if you sign up for my newsletter, I'm going to send you the actual templates that we use. Like, what do you actually email them about, and what do you say to the different media outlets, like the stuff that I said that's proven to work. So you want to focus on reducing friction. You can write a post for them. You can write captions for social media. Hey, John, I hope you're well. I'm glad Bob introduced us, and I love what you write about. I have something similar coming up. In fact, I actually wrote a blog post to kind of give you some direction, some idea if it helps. It's just make it so easy that they can say yes. Step 6, you want to tap into your network. A lot of your initial traction will come from these people. I talked to you about that pre-landing page, right? That is where your success is going to come from those in that initial pool of people. They already know you, they love you, they trust you. This is grandma. This is your sister. This is the lady you met at the PTA. These are the people that are going to initially promote, which is going to help with the funding, and is also going to help with the algorithm of the crowdfunding campaign. Make it easy to share. Similar to what I was talking about with the media outlets, one thing that we did is we had a list of close friends and family. It was like, let's say a list of 50 people. I wrote personalized emails and text messages to each. I'd say, hey, I hope you're well. I'm working on XYZ. No pressure, but if you're interested, here's where you can learn more, right? Place the link, great. But then I said, I would really appreciate it if you could share this message with anybody who you think would be interested. And I didn't stop there. Then I pasted a sample message that they could just copy and paste. That is what I mean about easy. So you do that, they share it, they share it, they share it, and your list will start to grow. Build your personal relationship database. You want to, again, lay out who your close connections are. I usually have 2 messages. I'll do a personalized message for people that I'm really close with, and acquaintances will get a little more general message. Ask them to join the pre-launch list. And while you have that list, remember, you're going to be sending updates. You're not going to be promoting. You're going to be just saying, hey, here's another day at the kitchen making the product, or something that connects with your story. Step 7 is you get ready to launch. So you've done all of your upfront work, right? Here are the strategies. You want to create anticipation. The first 24 hours after you launch are the most important. You want to communicate throughout your campaign, and that's by sending updates, that's by sending progress. Every time that we would send an email to our people that have already backed us, right? Let's say we had 300 backers, and we would send an email like, oh my God, thank you. We are so close to unlocking the next flavor. Please let us know, spread the word. Our donations, our contributions would jump right after every email we would send. Tie the rewards into your funding goals. Leverage your VIP list. When we're talking about anticipation, you want to send emails and behind the scenes so that when people cannot wait for it to launch. So what we would do, as an example, let's say we're launching in 2 weeks. By this time, we have already built rapport and have had a connection with our community. We would say, okay, guys, finally, our launch date is 2 weeks away. And there's like a countdown timer, right? Okay, get ready. This is going to be awesome. Make sure that you are on the early bird list. It's coming. And we get messages with people responding back saying, like, oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait. And it would increase the virality. So you want to create, it's called buying pressure. So tease your launch, offer early bird specials, which I'll jump into right now. You want to make noise and be everywhere. This is important for a lot of reasons. So when you're reaching out to friends, you're reaching out to family, you're reaching out to influencers, you're reaching out to the media, you want to try to get them all to post at the same time. It's going to seem like people that don't know about your campaign, like you're showing up everywhere. This is done strategically. You can do this if you're reaching out to a blogger, say, I'm super excited. If you wouldn't mind, can you please launch on X date? Tell all your friends, hey, at 7 a.m. on this date, please post. Encourage sharing. We actually ended up doing like a launch party. So you want to make noise and be everywhere. And the reason why is because the first 24 hours matter the most. And this is why. With crowdfunding campaigns, if you ever see that a campaign is like on the recommended side, right? It's like, oh, this is a Kickstarter pick, or you get like a campaign email to you. A lot of times it's because it's showing traction and showing early promise. So how we kind of gamed the system is we emailed our list and we said, look, we are going to offer 200 early bird order cookies. They're going to be at a 20% discount more than anybody else. And guess what? Because you're a VIP, you're going to get an email a couple of hours before anybody else knows for you to come and get that discount. So what happened? We opened the floodgates. Those 200 boxes sold out like in 5-10 minutes. What did that do? It triggered Kickstarter's algorithm that there's something going on. We were the top funded for the day. Then we became Kickstarter's recommended. Then Kickstarter promoted us to their email list. 50% of the money we raised came through Kickstarter. So think about that. It's like 40, 50 grand came from Kickstarter because we focused on the pre-launch. We made sure that the first 24 hours were the most critical. Communicate with your VIPs throughout the process, like I mentioned. And when I call VIPs, I mean your influencers, the people on your pre-launch list. Align the incentives with your funding goals. Again, there are a lot of creative ways to do this, but what we found very simply was just align the launches of new flavors with funding goals. So, okay, if we hit 10 grand, this is going to happen. But if we hit 15, oh, that's cinnamon churros coming out, right? So what can you do with what you're doing? I have a friend who has a really cool board game, kind of around the decade, the 2020 decade. And we're working on his strategy. And he is looking at having like extra bonus packs be unlocked. Like, if you play board games, a lot of times, I forgot what the word's called, but it's like you can buy like an add-on pack to kind of keep the game going. And he's going to align certain rewards with that. So think about what you're doing and how you can kind of align it that way. Make sure that they're on brand. And that is the strategy overall. I'm planning on either tomorrow or the day after to send like a checklist, the templates, all of that. So if you're interested in getting that, you can sign up. This is my newsletter. It's free. victormacias.com/newsletter. I threw a lot. It's very condensed. Now let's talk. I'm here to happy to dive deep to see how I can help.
First off, thank you, Victor. This was really informative, and I think that there are a lot of people with questions. I'm ready. Some people have already asked for the deck. Will you make this deck available if people email you at your newsletter, or do you? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
either way.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, if you guys are interested, I can attach it to the email.
Wonderful. Okay. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can ask Victor your questions at this time.
Oh, Xavier Medina. Should I jump into Xavier's, or is somebody going to ask? Whatever you think, Philip.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we go ahead and take Xavier's first, and then anybody else will feel comfortable afterwards. So you see the message? We want to go ahead and read it. And
it says, do you have any recommendations for e-commerce platforms? I'm kind of biased, but Shopify, honestly, is like the easiest, right? It's just all the integrations, even if it's a slightly higher percentage of sale, it's worth it, especially if you're starting.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I use Shopify for probably 4 years, and it was expensive, but it was worth it. It was worth every penny. You'll end up with all the plugins probably spending a couple $100 a month. But it's something that when you get started after the Kickstarter campaign.
Exactly.
You know, Victor, I have a question. If you don't mind me jumping in, how frequent were you keeping your audience updated? Like, were you getting closer as you got closer to that 24-hour window? Was it like almost like a daily update, or was it like still like a bi-weekly, or could you kind of give us or visualize what that looks like?
Yeah, great question. So on social media, we were doing a daily update. Let's say about 2 months out, we were sending about a weekly update. But as we got close to launch, I think the last 2 weeks, we were sending every other day, which initially my spidey sense is like, oh, that's cringy, right? That's too much, I'm spamming. That's how I felt. The data showed something way different. People appreciated it. It was building anticipation. It was building buzz.
And then during the campaign, were you also updating on a daily basis or weekly or anything like that?
Yeah. During the campaign, we were updating, I'd say every 3 to 4 days. Now, if we were close to a milestone, if we were $5,000 away from double chocolate or whatever, we were sending messages and letting people know. And again, you could see every time we message, just the funds go up. It was like a video game. It was incredible.
That's fun. Okay, I see Fred wrote in another message, but before we get to Fred's, was there someone else that wanted to either unmute themselves and ask directly?
Come on, guys. I just spoke for 40 minutes to myself. I love to talk to somebody.
All right, well, as you're warming up, we'll take Fred's. What would change if offering a service versus a product?
That's a good question. As far as I know, a lot of the crowdfunding is more geared towards products. Let's assume it was a product launch, right? Because a lot of the principles apply. So let's say you were about to launch a service. I think that the story is still going to be key. I think that instead of doing an early bird offer, right? Like, okay, the first 100 people are going to get 20% off. You could potentially do like a bonus or an add-on for people that sign up to your service for an X amount of time. So we've only got, 10 packages of this or 20 packages of that or whatever. So I think the principles still apply, but I would kind of optimize that way. Fred, does that, if you need more clarification, feel free to expand.
Ask a question.
Okay. Yes, great. Please.
Sure. And so no, and I tried a Kickstarter decades ago. I didn't have an audience. I had a cool little project, but with no audience, nobody noticed, and it went away. So I know, so I appreciate your very aggressive approach to building an audience, a community, before you launch and such. And for my next project, it's something that enhances meditation. And it's like a cuddle toy sort of thing. But in any event, I'm assuming I need to build a community, and I should go to the meditation community and tap into that community to build my community. And I'm just wondering if that makes sense to you.
It makes a lot of sense. One is I'm really big into meditation. It's one of the things that's changed my life, anxiety, a lot of that. So awesome to hear that. So I'm probably in your community, so reach out. Yes, I think if you're able to do in person is a great way to build rapport. There's also a ton of communities online. Now, what you don't want to do is jump in and promote your crowdfunding campaign in the community that can get you banned. But what you want to do is you want to start building relationships, and from those relationships, let's assume it's Instagram or Facebook. If you're in a meditation community, you're providing value. People are going to click to see who you are. Once they click to see who you are, then on your own profile, you can be talking about your campaign, the stuff coming up. That's how it trickles down. And that's how you can start building community. But yes, so where's everybody at already? And just jump in that conversation. You've got Reddit, you've got Facebook, you've got in person, you've got Meetup, a lot of places you can go.
Great.
Does that help, Greg?
Oh, totally. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the job you did here, by the way. This is a great job.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. My first time giving this one, so I appreciate the feedback.
I see a comment or a question from Xavier, but Xavier, I was wondering, would you be willing to unmute yourself and actually ask a question? Because we also have our resident patent and trademark attorney also on the call, and he might be able to engage and ask and address some of the things that you want to do.
Let's see. Sure. Hello. Hey, everybody.
How's it going, Xavier?
Hey. Good, and yourself?
Good, man.
Good.
Talk to us. What's going on?
Okay, so I have a Shopify account. Right now, at the moment, I'm trying to find drop shippers that can supply products that I want to put on the website. Right now, my idea is to get essentially kind of like crypto tokens in like as a user, I guess, way of interaction with the website. But right now I'm facing like trademarks and copyrights because I want to use Konami as a partner essentially. So that's why I was asking in the chat, how do I approach a company for a contract with like if it's licensing or permits?
I think that might be a Justin question, Philip.
Yeah, Justin, are you available to?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on the company. I think a lot of times you would need to have some kind of established product. I mean, just to show, because a lot of times these companies aren't just going to throw around or give out licenses to just any product or service. So, I mean, you have to kind of establish yourself usually first and foremost. And then the licensing will come kind of as stage two, once you kind of proven a market for your product or your service, but probably most likely a product if we're talking licensing. But I mean, with that said, if you have a unique enough product, I mean, maybe they'd be interested in giving you a license sooner before you've actually proven that there's a market for it. But yeah, usually that's kind of stage two for a lot of these bigger companies.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and to wrap it all in here, Xavier, Kickstarter or some sort of crowdfunding is stage one, and that shows You know, hey, and if you have a low enough goal, so maybe actually, Victor, if you don't mind me asking this question, what do you think about your thoughts on just having a low goal, so that way you make sure that you reach that goal? Like, what if you had a low goal of, say, $1,000 or $2,000 to ensure that you meet it? Or do you feel like that's just way too low and you kind of need to have something higher, like how you did 21,000 at first?
No, I completely think that you should go. My rule is go with as low as will make a difference in your business. So if you choose 500 and it doesn't do anything, yeah, it's $500, but it doesn't move the needle, then it doesn't matter, right? So for us, actually, we were trying to raise 5,000 and we hit 21,000. Yeah, so as low as you need, and just make sure that you, yeah, for priority number one is make sure that you hit your goal. So whatever needs to happen for that.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, Rudy.
Hey, I have a question. How is everybody? It's good to see you, Victor.
Hey, Rudy.
Good. Good to see you.
That was brilliant. It was fantastic. And I know that I was supposed to tune in on Saturday. Sorry I couldn't do it, but yeah, that was brilliant. So, and just
Thank you, Rudy.
a little background. I had lunch with Victor last week, and so I've been looking forward to this. But I have a question that popped up as I was watching this. Are there any downfalls to crowdfunding? And if so, what would those be for all of us?
That's a great question. I would, there's a couple. I guess the most obvious one is spending a lot of time and resources and not hitting your goal. Because to do it right, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes energy. And yes, you can leverage help and tools to help. Something else is potentially if there's a bigger competitor with resources and ability to pivot,
Right.
and they can potentially look at the traction that you're getting and kind of jump into the space. So it's something to consider. Now, usually crowdfunding campaigns are what, like a month, 3 months long. So it's not enough time to pivot. Just be ready to go out guns a-blazing. So I think those are the two things.
Okay. And one last question. How did you take care of your mental health during all of this madness? You know?
I like that. That's a good question. Not as well as I should have, and not as well as I learned later down the line. When this launches, it can feel like chaos. What ended up helping is I ended up, at least for our second one, I hired a virtual assistant that helped me with a lot of the day-to-day. I used some software that helped automate some of the tasks that I was doing. And by that time, I was meditating. I was doing cold showers, I was doing breath work, and that was way different than the first time. But definitely a part that nobody talks about because it can feel like chaos.
Okay. That's it. That was brilliant. Thank you, Victor.
Thanks, Rudy. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rudy.
Of course. I've got to sign up. It's dinner time here for the family. So, but thank you so much, Victor. It was brilliant. Thank you so much, Philip.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, let's take another question from the audience. I see Xavier put another one in our chat, but does anybody else have another question?
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how long ago did all this take place? Like when influencers were still not as popular as they are now, or because I'm just wondering, like, how hard is it, do you think, now to get influencers on board without them expecting some kind of monetary compensation to be like a spokesperson as opposed to just giving them free product?
Such a great question. So this was a few years back. I'd say maybe I'll check the date, but it was a couple years back. Now, is it harder? Yes. Now, something that was different is when we were in this keto market, keto itself was a relatively new industry. So there weren't a lot of competitors bidding for the same influencers. So we didn't have brands throwing a lot of money at influencers to the point where we could send them product. Now, what did help is, again, the connection to the story. There's a picture of us for two guys trying to figure this out on a big mission, right? Some people out of the goodness of their heart said yes. So I would look now, there's always new industries that are emerging. Influencers were important, definitely, but I think that the media coverage, the blogs, as well as our personal network and helping share helped a lot. But it is a good point. You just kind of have to find your angle.
Yeah, I love just building your base before launching the Kickstarter campaign. It's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Justin, I'm also gonna chime in and say I did also reach out to influencers for my business. And I found that if you had less than 10,000 followers, you could get people to cover your, as long as they would be considered an influencer by you or an ambassador or something to give them credit, they would be happy to still share and be a media partner. This is under 10,000 followers. So like 7,000 followers, 5,000 followers, 3,000 followers, maybe 1,000 followers, because they're still building up their reputation so that they can eventually reach a point where they ask for money. I found that after about 10,000 followers, they started asking for money. They started, they'll always ask for money, but they usually don't have the credibility to be an influencer until they've reached 10,000 or more followers.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And the term for those are called micro influencers. And there is, if you do have a couple of bucks, there are websites that can help you. It's like a database of influencers that pulls data, and you can sort by number of followers. So less than 10,000, for example, and then it gives you a good pool to work with.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Xavier, did you want to also expand on what is this that you like to do? By unmuting yourself and asking?
Oh, sure. So the question was, so if I'm able to successfully raise the money to develop the website, and I use that money, for branded or trademark or copyrighted content to make money on my website, could I potentially be, sued for whatever reason before I'm able to cut a deal with a certain whatever company, general company?
I'll take this. So you're saying if you use licensed content before you actually get the license?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Don't do that.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
Simple answer.
Yeah. I love the easy questions now.
So would this platform like Kickstarter be a wrong choice for me potentially as a venture?
I think if you don't get permission, no matter what platform you use, that's going to be a big no-no. You definitely need to get permission before launching. And Xavier, if you'd like to, I'll go ahead and direct message you Justin's contact information as well. And sounds like you guys might want to talk about this a little more offline. So let me go ahead and do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other questions from anybody else?
I had a follow-up to the downside of the Kickstarter. Yep. And that is and so Justin and Victor, you both might have a comment here, just a perspective, but the notion of if you do reasonably well or you're well on Kickstarter for a product, you're running the risk of somebody knocking you off because they see you've been successful there. Any thoughts would be great.
Yes, it's definitely a reality. I can tell you, maybe not on the Kickstarter because it was still relatively small, but a couple of years back, that same business, we landed a deal on Shark Tank. And within a couple months, there were cookies everywhere. So just, I wouldn't use it as a chance to as a reason to dissuade, right? Because if it wasn't for Kickstarter, we wouldn't have even had the chance to be on Shark Tank. But it is definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if it is something that's got some unique aspects to it, where you might be able to get a patent on, I mean, particularly if we're talking products, because I think products are more frequently knocked off than I mean, I don't think there's a lot of services being provided through Kickstarter. I think it's primarily products, but I have seen situations. Yeah, I mean, there are unscrupulous companies out there that they just kind of sit and watch Kickstarter and the other crowdsourcing or crowdfunding platforms to see what are the most successful campaigns, and then those are the ones that they just try to blitz the market with knockoff products. And I mean, more often than not, the people that are doing these campaigns, they haven't yet obtained a patent, let's say, and so they really have no enforceable rights, no way to stop the knockoffs except to just compete with them. And I mean, that's fine if you have a product that's not patentable or protectable, then I mean, that's just the name of the game. It's first to market, or having the best product at the best price, and you're just competing with everyone else. But if there is something that's potentially patentable there, that's definitely something where you'd want to at least start the process before you go public with the idea, because that's going to limit your ability to protect it. But even better, I mean, if you're able to fast track a patent and get something, if not issued, close to being issued before you launch your campaign, you might have enforceable rights where, as those knockoffs come onto the scene, you would be able to stop them in fairly short order. And so, like, if we're talking a product that has a unique look to it, sometimes, like, I have clients that'll do utility patent, which takes it a little longer sometimes, but they'll also follow a design patent, and just because those sometimes get issued quicker. And so, I mean, different strategies for different situations, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a risk, as Victor said, that you could have people watching, and if your campaign's successful enough, you might be a victim of your own success in that respect.
Thank you. And we are filing for a pretty good patent, it looks like. So that was very encouraging what you just said.
Cool.
Yeah, they say imitation, or something about imitation is
Just more flattery.
Something they're taking your market share.
Yeah, exactly.
It will happen. Please don't allow that to be your to dissuade you from entrepreneurship. It's just going to happen as a natural consequence or a natural reaction to being successful. I know that when I also launched my business, people were even using my trademark, and which was a big no-no as well. But there was a lot of imitation things that came up as well. Imitation influencers and organizations. Find ways of actually partnering with them. And if they don't want to partner, then then that's it's just, you're off to the races. This is about gaining market share. So don't let it dissuade you. Let it encourage you to run faster.
Yeah, and as Victor said, I mean, this doesn't happen to every successful campaign. It's just a fraction. So yeah, don't let it discourage you. And I mean, crowdfunding or not, it's once you go to market, I mean, there's always a risk that someone's going to try to copy you. And yeah, don't let it discourage you or dissuade you.
Philip, somebody jumped in with the question. I think it was Leslie.
Yes.
It says, how did Kickstarter get you to Shark Tank? So it didn't get me directly to Shark Tank. It got me, so we raised 100K on Kickstarter, which we leveraged for other press. So one of the things that changed our business is every time we had a win, we would roll it over into another win. We would keep compounding. So the 100K helped us get to 1 million in sales. When we went to go audition for Shark Tank, it was a part of our resume. We've done XYZ. We've raised 100 grand on Kickstarter, which is social proof. We have 1 million in sales, and that made it more likely for them to say yes.
Thank you. See, you have another question in here from Johnny. Yeah, let's go with Johnny, and then we can see about the audience if anybody else has anybody wants to unmute themselves. But Johnny's question: are there any resources you have that expand on how you build a community?
That's a great question. I'd say there's a great book, again, by Russell Brunson called Expert Secrets, where he dives really deep. The thing that's helped me with building community is you're just trying to make friends. Like you're just making friends. So I would think, what is the platform that your community is on? How can you go and give value? So whether that be comment on their posts, send them resources, just be helpful. And as cliche as that might sound, it works, it compounds. So it's more of a daily practice than I'd say a tool, because the tools are already there. Social media, email, text, it's already there. Forums, discussion groups.
Thank you, Victor. Any other questions from the audience? Maybe just one other follow-up question, Victor. How much pre-planning did you do before Kickstarter? Would you say that you probably planned this out maybe a few months? Sounds like a few months before Kickstarter. Sounds like you really increased your IQ on successful campaigns before launching.
Definitely. And there's a lot of mistakes on the way. I'd say anybody that wants to do a successful crowdfunding campaign, you need to be thinking at least 3 months ahead. You need to start that process at least 3 months ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Johnny. I'm just curious as to how many, like, do you have a ballpark as to how many influencers you actually reached out to? Or yeah, I'm just curious what that number is.
Yeah, and remember, kind of like how Justin was saying, that the game has changed on influencers, but there's always opportunities somewhere. Me and my business partner would block out a few hours a day to send DMs. Okay, so we had a list, and we would just send DMs and follow up. And the DM was very simple. I connect with your story. We're on this big mission. Can I send you something for free? And again, it was a cookie, right? I'm not sending them a product that cost me $50. It was a cookie that cost me a couple cents. And then we'd follow up, and we'd have personality. If they didn't respond, we'd say, oh, did the mailman eat the cookies, right? Like, just ways of being authentic, ways of being like, we're dorks, right? Like, how can you just be you? And after a while, you can see the people that respond the most, the ones who share the most, and those become your evangelists. And then we would focus on making them feel special. So we'd message them, hey, we're thinking of a new flavor. Can I send you this cookie before anybody else? And all of that creates goodwill. And guess who were the ones that were promoting us when we were about to launch? It was those people.
Wonderful. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. And by the way, Victor, sorry, do you still have a few more minutes to go over? Because I think we're gonna probably close it up in maybe one more.
Yeah. I
Okay.
have a couple more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Xavier, if you don't mind, your question is directly related to more of a Justin Sanders question. So we're gonna skip that one just for time. So Caesar asked a question: how does Kickstarter work in regards to investor equity?
That's a great question. And some of it might be out of my wheelhouse. Okay. So there are crowdfunding platforms, and Philip, if you know more than I here, please jump in. There are some crowdfunding platforms that are just for equity. So in the way that I tell you that they work together is, I believe that the same launch process can work for both. Now, how they're structured on the back end is different. Do you want to jump in? I have a feeling you know more about this part than I do.
No, I'm actually agreeing with you. Absolutely. There are, this is a whole nother beast in terms of how to deal with the investors and the equity part. And that parlays into, you can find a lot more. There are equity crowdfunding platforms like Start Engine. And again, they're, WeFunder, they're going to be part of your company going forward. You'll have to communicate them because they are now, think of it as a mini IPO. You're going to have to communicate them on a regular basis and update them because they are investors. And you'll have to do a filing again with a CPA and make sure that the dividends and all that stuff is all taken care of. So it's another beast, but just like Victor was talking about, the pre-planning, the promotions, all that stuff is very relevant to an equity crowdfunding platform as well. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and just be conscious of our time. So again, thank you, Victor. This was really great. I learned a lot. I think you can tell by a lot of people here that they've learned a lot. So I put my email and contact information in the chat. We will follow up with you as well, and everyone who registered on Eventbrite, and we'll also be in touch.
Sorry,
ahead,
can I just ask one more question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Victor, so in your consulting work, do you work with companies to like help them through this process? Like, could they hire you to basically, just lean on you and your experience to kind of guide them through all this?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we start off and we'll set an outcome, and I will guide them through this whole process. It's either I can show them or I can kind of like hold their hand and through this whole process. Yeah.
Cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And if you guys, like I said, I'm going to be sending the slides, all that stuff. So victormacias.com/newsletter. And I'll get you a bunch of good stuff.
All right. Thank you, Victor. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for attending. This was a really great discussion. And also thank you, Justin, for chiming in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome co-pilot. It was great.
All right. Well, take care, and we'll see you guys soon.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.